Coordinated Universal Time. Zulu, wind 220 degrees, 8 knots, visibility more than 6 miles, clear, probability 30%, 0600 Zulu, until 1000 Zulu, visibility 2 miles, north. St. John, followed from the night at 0000 Zulu, until the night at 2400 Zulu. Wind 150 degrees, 6 knots. Visibility more than 6 miles to 4,000 scattered. Becoming between 0000 Zulu and 0100 Zulu. Wind 280 degrees. At the tone, 1 hour, 52 minutes, Coordinated Universal Time.
Fucking money. Let's see if we get 15. That's it, slightly off. Hello, Nick here. Got a new radio. New to me anyway. This thing is cooler than, man, I don't know. This thing is way cool. So this is an R1145, which is the receiver that came out of a British Lancaster bomber from World War II. Let's see if we can get down and read the nameplate down there. Can you see? I'll put a light on it. I'm carrying my little pen light around here. Can you read that? Receiver type something 11 something 55 maybe, or 45A, reference number, serial number. All right, so I found this on eBay, a seller in England, obviously. And I asked him, I said, hey, and he's like, yeah, it's been all gone through and rebuilt, and they've even changed some of the stuff around it. We'll go into more detail when we talk about the specific switches and controls. But originally, this receiver was also a very specific direction finder with controls and elements inside of it that worked in conjunction with another antenna and some separate tuners, because you see this got this weird stuff aural sense, meter amplitude. See, so some of these switches now do different than what they say. All right, and that was part of the rebuild. So when it was surplused, I think they took the direction finding things out of the radio. So that makes the switches and the controls for that part of it immaterial, right? They don't do anything. So why not let them do something else? And anyway, so this was rebuilt. The guy said it was all gone through, had a new power supply put inside of it. They changed some of the controls around, and like I said, we'll go through that when we get to the controls. But so I asked him, I said, what kind of power does it run off of? Because it used to have all these different Jones plugs that plugged into these different sections. There's 3 different sections here. And this one, far end one, was modified. The Jones plug was removed. And he's like, it's got an internal power supply and it runs off of 220 or 230 volts, 50 hertz. And he's telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, geez. I'm like, okay. So I got to start researching that before I bid on it. And it turns out, I found this on Amazon. If I can get this tripod. This is a power converter, inverter, whatever you call it. So you can see the power down there. What does it say? It says 123 coming in from my house, 235 to 237 going out to the radio. So the radio's plugged in with its own cord. That inverter, converter, whatever the hell you call that thing, works like a champ. And yeah, this radio is awesome. It's beautiful. It's got a robot eye. It's not overly sensitive, but it does work a little bit. Let me tell you a story. Okay, so when it first came in, brought it over, looked it over. It's got this metal case all around it. Put it on the bench, plugged it in. It had to warm up a little bit. It started playing, and it was really weak. It was hard. I'm thinking, man, maybe I'm missing a switch, or I'm not plugged into something, or I even thought maybe my Wellbrook antenna was broken outside, something, because the only thing I could get were strong AM broadcast stations. The shortwave bands were virtually dead, and I'm like, oh man, I got screwed again, because I've been getting jacked buying radios on eBay like you guys wouldn't believe. Anyway, so it occurred, I said to myself, you know what? Maybe something popped loose during shipping, because it did come all the way from England to Texas. So there's these 4 screws in each corner, 1, 2, and then 2 on the other side. You just back those out and they're captured. And then you take it and you can put it up, you stand it up, and you just pick it up by the 2 rack handles and you pull the whole insides out. And so I pulled it out, set it on the bench, and I obviously no power going to it, and I start looking it over real close. I don't really know what I'm looking at because, like I said, I'm not a radio technician. I don't know how to fix this stuff. But I'm not stupid, right? So I'm starting to look at it, and one of the tubes was all the way out of the socket. But it was one of the ones that had a metal shield around it. So it was like sitting there in the right place, but it was all the way out of the socket. And I'm like, oh man. So I figured it out, pushed it all the way back in, went around and checked every other tube. There was only one other tube that was kind of halfway cockeyed in a socket, but it was still down. But anyway, I straightened it and pushed it all the way down. And then while I had it, I stood it up and I looked into the bottom, and then this switch and this switch had wafers on the inside. So I got my deoxit and I cleaned those 2 switches. Not that they needed it, I have no idea, but I'm inside. So I did that, and then let it dry off or whatever from the deoxit, and then put it back together, turned it on, and this thing has to warm up for a good while before it really works well. All right. And all of a sudden this thing is working perfect. So before, the robot eye was stuck. It was like frozen on full power. I couldn't get any movement out of those. See those 4 veins? 1, 2, at 2, 4, 8, and 10 o'clock. Those veins, they're real twitchy, but they get a little bigger, a little smaller. And sometimes it depends if you're in AVC or not, or manual gain, which is this position. And anyway, so now I can get it to twitch and work, and it works a little bit. And before I found the tube that was loose, I could, between AVC and manual gain, those 2 positions, there was absolutely no difference. And then this button here was converted to be an RF gain control. No difference at all. From full all the way one way to all the way the other way, no change in either AVC or manual. Absolutely no change. So I'm like, something's not right. So since I pushed the tube back in and straightened that other tube out, cleaned the 2 switches, everything now is working great. I use AVC, which is AGC. I use that for just AM listening. And then if I want to listen to sideband, here's the BFO. They call it a HET. I guess that stands for heterodyne. You flip this to on, then this is the BFO. You can adjust your BFO right here, all right? And then I put it in manual when I do this. And you just heard it. We got WWV, and you saw it. 10 and 5 megahertz were spot on. 15 was a little bit off. It's probably too early to check 2.5, but we'll try it before we cut off today. And then it's working like champ. And I could tell the difference between AVC and manual, and I can tell the difference when I have to turn out the AVC on, or excuse me, the RF gain. I have to back it out on really strong signals. Or you can tell the speaker's overloaded, and but anyway, no, everything's working really, really nice. And now, so let's talk about the controls. But before we do that, quickly, you might be able to hear this hum in the background. That's the radio. It's always doing that, but when you turn the volume up, the audio overpowers that hum. So I mean, not like I can do anything about it, but it is what it is. But if you're listening to anything, you don't even hear that hum. Here's the controls. They converted this to an on-off button, okay? This doesn't do anything. This is he calls it a 2.5 megahertz something. Crystal, a 2.5 megahertz tone, a 2.5 megahertz something. And he says it's good for checking the ends of the bands. And I'm like, I don't really know what he means by that, because I don't, like, when I flip it on, I don't really hear a tone come up. I don't know, maybe I'll have to monkey with it some more. Obviously, that's the tuning eye. This is the power. These don't do anything anymore. Band switch, so there's your ranges, 75 kilohertz to 200 kilohertz, and then up to 7.5 megahertz to 18 megahertz. So the top end on this radio is 18 megahertz. This is a filter. It's either on or off. I don't think it's a bandwidth filter. It doesn't make it wider or narrower. It just adds a filter to the sound. When we get into some broadcast stuff, we'll turn it on and hear it. Volume control, and then this is your BFO button on, HET. You flip it down for on. This is your BFO adjust, and there's a little nipple there. See that? That's your pointer for straight up. And then the volume, or excuse me, this is the RF gain, and you can see there's the nipple there. It's in the shadow, but I usually run it, down in this range, or I run it where I have to for the signal. But this is very sensitive to how much gain you put into it. The tuning dial looks great. The glass on it, it's not scratched or anything. There are only a couple of the bands you can see, like the ones that are in blue there. They're a little faded, kind of hard to see. So that's why I carry this light to try to, if it's important to see exactly where I am. All right. But And the same thing over here from like, it starts at 10. So there's 10.5, there's 10, 9.5, 9, all the way down to 7.5 right there. And for the most part, this thing is, the dial is very accurate. On a couple of the bands, as you get to the edges, it gets a little bit off. But no, I'm extremely happy with this thing. And so you just heard it on the Trenton Military 10.051 upper sideband, and it pulled it in awesome, great. And then you obviously you heard it on WWV on 3 different signals. So let's listen to some shortwave, okay? So, all right, 4.765. AVC on, RF that way. Put the band switch in the right range. Heterodyne off. All right, we're looking for the first station to come up because I checked it on another radio over there. Oh, the way this tuning thing works. So there's this big geared one with big knobs on it. If you grab both the front dial and the geared one, you can move the whole thing fast. But if you let go of the back one and just do the front one, it's a fine tune. Works awesome. All right, so 4.765. 4.7. No, that's 8. 4.7 is right there. So that's 4.6, 65, 7, 7.5 right there. Oh, that's not 765 anymore. Yeah, I'm checking it on my Yaesu over here. So that's 4.765. Depending on the way you look at it, it looks like it's pretty much in there to me. So I'm trying to put this, I try not to wash you out with the light. All right, so 4.840 is the next signal. There it is.
Yeah. Plagiarizing. And a puppy up his resume. Like, he went to school here, there, and everywhere. He's been lying his whole life.
4.840.
But they were called out on it.
Back to RF down.
They got called out on it. And so now, Mr. Axelrod is Troubleshooting. That's...
You see the tuning eye? Watch the tuning eye.
Withdrawal should retire. We've got a video clip of David Axelrod.
So it's not overly sensitive.
There are certain immutable facts of life.
Next would be WWV at 5. There.
Coordinated universal time.
Now in Dallas, we get a signal at 5.01, which is, you almost can't even move this dial that little. There it is. Bring the RF up. So when I try to zero beat the signal using the BFO, it does. When I zero beat it and I turn this off, I'm not in the center of the signal. I don't know why that is. There is a little screw inside of here called a het adjust. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe I could monkey with that to make my zero beat be accurate. Robert, what do you think? Let me know. But anyway, that's 5010. The next signal is 5025. There it is. Then 5085.
FDR. This Kennedy was elected 4 times, even though they were hiding.
Very powerful.
You see what I'm trying to tell you? We're going to spend some time, and as we finish our travels into Florida, and we'll be producing the program from Florida, I also want to mention, with the new format, I've reached out to several of my friends. Now, from time to time, you're going to hear small bits and pieces.
And we got, then you jump up to 5.8, 5.5, 6, 7, 750. Bring the RF up.
Saludos amigos, con ustedes.
See that? Or am I washing it out?
Vamos al fútbol. El escenario quedó listo para las semifinales en Copa América y en la Eurocopa. En América el sábado quedó cerrado el cuadro cuando Colombia no dio tregua a Panamá y lo goleó 5-0 para avanzar a las semifinales, ronda en la que se medirá ante Uruguay el miércoles 10 de julio.
Does that help?
El equipo charrúa eliminó a Brasil en la tanda de penales 4-2. Luego de empatar a 0 en el tiempo reglamentario.
All right. That's 5.8, now 5.850.
In Baja, it's going to taste different.
That's 5.9. 5.850 must be off air.
It's different from foods in other parts of Mexico. Has its own spices, its own flavor.
You value leadership in a ministry, and you value the message above what you regularly give anyway. That's what it's all about. So if you don't remember the internet yet, consider it.
See the robot eye?
Just right there, that's a great starting point. But I'm asking the question because we have this constant battle, and there's a constant battle for commitment here.
That might be 5.950. The next will be Cuba, but it'll just be a carrier. Oh, there's a little voice. Maybe that's Cuba, and that's 5.980 or something. That's 6 megahertz. 6030 Radio Martí. Next would be 6070 Canada. This is either Toronto or Montreal. I think it's Toronto. And 6.070. And in Dallas, it usually comes in pretty weak until much later in the evening. Then we go to, I think, all the way to 6160 is the next. 61. Oh, that might be 105 or 115. I'm checking my Yesu over here. Yeah. 6105. 6. Dang, that thing is pretty much right on. 6105. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yep, see the 6 to the left of the dark mark, and then first little mark is 050, and then it's on the big mark, and it's on the left side of the big mark, which is 105. All right, then 6160 is the next. 'Reverend Freak Show, 6160. All right, now, let's see if they're on here. All right. 180 and 185, 6180 and 185 are those two signals that are 5 kilohertz apart. The problem is they're both real weak and they're both in foreign language, so I have a hard time reading either one, but there's Reverend Freak Show. 6180. 185. Let's see what that sounds like on this thing. All right. $180. 185, baby. Check that out. 5 kilohertz selectivity on a World War II bomber radio. Dang. Brits knew what they were doing. Actually, I think this was made by a company called Marconi. But man, how about that? Awesomeness. All right, one last thing before I let you go. Let's check, since it's got 2 different long wave bands, let's try one of them. With the only beacon left that I know is even out here, okay? 365, 0.365. All right. So we're on the right range down here. We'll put it on manual. We'll back this off slightly. Wow, there it is. Look at that, 350. The first hash mark is 360. And the next hash mark is 370. And we're splitting it. 365. Dude, those Brits knew what they were doing when they made this thing. Or maybe it was the guys who rebuilt it after the war. I don't know. But whatever it is, very happy. I wish this thing went up to 28 megahertz so I could check that little weak beacon. In fact, oh, that's because I probably forgot to tell you, they put a speaker jack here for either a headphone set, but I use audio out, so I got it running to my Bose speaker. So Anyway, so that's it. I don't think I can tell you anything else. I mean, I'm very glad I opened it up and took it out of the case, and finding that loose tube, it's like, man, it's like you found gold. It's like, as soon as I saw that tube was literally out of the socket, I'm like, 99% that's my problem right there. And guess what? It was. The AVC and the manual gain both started working. The RF gain control started working. The robot eyes started working. And sensitivity came back to all the shortwave bands that didn't have it before. It's phenomenal. I'm so happy, so happy. But yeah, this is a cool old radio. Anyway, it's 30 minutes right now, so to both of you guys that are still out there watching this, hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed talking about it, because I really like this radio. Anyway, all right, thanks for hanging out.